Why do we cling to what we cannot hold? What weight do we carry when we chase an outcome, believing it defines our worth? For Sophia, a weaver of dream catchers whose fingers spun stories into delicate threads, this question lingered like a shadow. Once a visionary who wove protection and hope into each intricate design, she now worked in a small attic studio, her spirit stifled by a belief that wealth would unravel her connection to simplicity, that chasing abundance would betray the sacred quiet of her inner world. Each unfinished dream catcher was a missed opportunity, a silent ache for a life she hadn't dared to live. Yet in that stillness, a deeper truth whispered, her pain was not the end, but the beginning of a path. Through her story, a journey unfolds, one that might mirror the silent longing in your own heart. Sophia's world was one of routine, her days as a dreamcatcher weaver filled with orders that dimmed her inner spark. The wonder she once felt in crafting talismans of peace had faded, replaced by a fear that seeking prosperity would taint her authenticity, that money would distance her from the truths she cherished. This belief held her like a cage, each day a reminder of the visions she never dared to weave. But what if this struggle was not a flaw, but a call to awaken? Her path would soon be shaped by 3 sacred insights, whispered through a fleeting encounter with a stranger's gaze. These truths would unravel her fears, guiding her toward a life of flow and possibility. Welcome to Zen Companion, where shadows soften and stories mend. Join us as Sophia's journey reveals the wisdom to detach and embrace abundance. Subscribe to walk this path of transformation, where every step uncovers the light within. Sophia's days passed in the soft rhythm of her attic studio, her fingers weaving dream catchers that caught more dust than dreams. Yet something stirred, a faint unease, like a breeze disturbing still water. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of amber, a stranger entered her shop. His eyes, deep and unhurried, met hers for a moment that felt eternal, as if seeing the weight she carried. He left a single feather on her counter, its edges frayed but glowing faintly in the dim light. No words were spoken, but the feathers seemed to hum with a question. Could she release her fear of abundance and trust the flow of life? This fleeting encounter cracked the shell of her routine. The feather, now tucked beside her loom, became a silent call, urging her to question the belief that wealth would sever her from simplicity. It whispered of a world where prosperity and authenticity could coexist, where her craft could flourish without betraying her soul. Sophia felt a pull towards something larger, a life where her hands could weave not just dream catchers, but a future unshackled from fear. Yet the path was unclear, the feather a riddle she couldn't yet read. Her heart quickened with possibility, but also with the weight of change. The stranger's gaze lingered in her mind, a mirror reflecting her own longing. Could she step beyond the safety of her small, predictable world? The feather seemed to pulse, a symbol of freedom she hadn't dared to claim. It was no accident, it was an invitation to unravel the cage she'd built around her dreams. Her journey was beginning, not with a map, but with a single, fragile sign. Would she follow it? Let this story stir the quiet call within you, and carry its light forward. The feather rested on Sophia's workbench, its soft edges catching the morning light, but her heart resisted its call. The idea of embracing abundance felt like a betrayal of the simplicity she held dear, a step toward a world where her craft might lose its soul. What if wealth turned her dream catchers into mere products, stripped of their sacred intent? Her belief that money would unravel her authenticity tightened its grip, whispering doubts. She wasn't ready, wasn't worthy, wasn't meant for a life beyond her attic's quiet. She pushed the feather aside, returning to her familiar routine, weaving with mechanical precision. Yet each knot she tied felt heavier, as if her hands knew what her mind refused. Still, A small act stirred within her, a micro-practice born of unease. Each evening, as the sun dipped low, Sophia began sitting in silence, holding the feather and breathing deeply, letting her fears surface without judgment. It was no grand gesture, just a moment of stillness to face the tension within. She didn't seek answers, only space to feel the weight of her resistance. This quiet ritual, barely noticeable, was her first step toward loosening the cage of her beliefs. The feather seemed to hum softly, as if acknowledging her effort, but the path ahead remained shrouded in doubt. Sophia's refusal was not defiance, but fear dressed as caution. The stranger's gaze haunted her, a reminder of the life she might be ignoring. Could she truly weave a future without losing herself? The question lingered, unanswered, as she clung to the safety of her small world. Yet the feather remained, a silent challenge to her hesitation. Her heart wavered, caught between comfort and the unknown. Pause with Sophia's story, and let its quiet stir your own courage to face what calls you. Sophia's evenings of silent contemplation with the feather began to shift something within her, though she couldn't name it. One rainy afternoon, while arranging dream catchers in her shop, an old woman entered, her presence as gentle as mist. Her name was Lila, a weaver of tapestries whose eyes held the depth of countless stories. Without preamble, she spoke of abundance, not as coins or status, but as a river that flows when one releases the need to control its course. Your fear of wealth, Lila said, her voice soft yet piercing, is a thread you've woven too tightly. Let it loosen, and see what flows. She placed a small, polished stone in Sophia's hand, warm as if it held a heartbeat, and left without another word. Lila's words echoed the stranger's gaze, stirring the first of the 3 sacred insights: abundance begins with surrender. Sophia clutched the stone, its warmth a quiet anchor, urging her to trust beyond her fear that wealth would unravel her simplicity. Lila was no teacher in robes, but her presence felt like a guidepost, pointing toward a truth Sophia had long avoided. The stone, like the feather, was a symbol of something larger, a wisdom that asked her to release her grip on outcomes. She began to see her belief as a story she'd told herself, not a law etched in stone. Yet doubt lingered, a shadow on her heart. Could she weave her craft into a life of abundance without losing its soul? Lila's fleeting visit offered no map, only a spark of clarity. Sophia held the stone each night, its warmth a reminder of the path unfolding. Her journey was no longer just her own, it was a thread in a greater tapestry. Carry this spark to a heart seeking its own truth. Sophia's nights with the stone grew into a quiet ritual, its warmth softening the edges of her fear. Lila's words echoed, abundance flows when control is released. This was the first of the 3 sacred insights, and it stirred a shift within her. No longer could she hide in the attic's safety, weaving dream catchers that never left her shop. One morning, heart pounding, Sophia took a practical step. She hung a single dream catcher in the window, its feathers catching the light, an offering to the world she'd long kept at bay. This act, small yet deliberate, was the second sacred insight. Sharing her craft could invite abundance without betraying her soul. The dream catcher swayed, a symbol of her willingness to step beyond fear. Sophia felt exposed, as if her heart hung in that window too. Yet, as passers-by paused to admire it, she sensed a new possibility, a life where her creations could touch others without losing their sacredness. Her belief that wealth would unravel her simplicity began to fray. She wasn't chasing money, she was inviting connection. Each night, she lit a candle and sat with the stone, visualizing her work flowing freely, unburdened by outcomes. This subtle practice anchored her, a Buddhist-inspired gesture of trust in the unfolding. The world beyond her attic beckoned, no longer a threat but a canvas for her craft. Sophia's step was not grand, but it was hers, a crossing into a realm where fear no longer held the reins. The dreamcatcher in the window was a quiet vow, a bridge between her inner world and the unknown. Her journey deepened, pulling her toward truths yet to be woven. Let this moment kindle your own step toward what calls you. Sophia's dreamcatcher in the window drew curious eyes, but with them came new trials. A local artist, intrigued by her work, invited her to a community market to sell her creations. The invitation thrilled her, yet her old belief, that wealth would taint her craft, resurfaced like a shadow, whispering that exposure might strip her work of meaning. The market was a test. Could she share her dream catchers without clinging to their outcome? Her first ally, a fellow vendor named Clara, shared stories of her own struggles with selling art, offering Sophia a quiet nod of understanding. Clara's warmth eased her doubts, but not entirely. The market day arrived, bustling with voices and color. Sophia's hands trembled as she arranged her dream catchers, each one a piece of her heart. A critic's sharp comment, that her work was too simple for the price, stung, feeding her fear that abundance would demand she change who she was. Yet Clara's encouragement, and the stones still warm in her pocket, reminded her of the second insight: sharing her craft was an act of trust. She faced an internal enemy, her need for approval, and chose to stand firm, letting the criticism pass like wind through feathers. External obstacles emerged too. A sudden rain threatened to ruin her display, forcing her to act quickly to protect her work. In that moment, she felt a spark of resilience, weaving a canopy with Clara's help. The rain didn't stop the day. It deepened her connection to her ally and her craft. Each challenge tested her ability to detach, to let her work exist without gripping its fate. Sophia's heart wavered, but the stone's warmth anchored her. Her journey was no longer just about her, it was about trusting the flow. Let this story weave courage into your own unfolding path. Sophia's days at the market left her both emboldened and raw, the dance of connection and criticism stirring deeper questions. The second insight, sharing her craft as an act of trust, had taken root, but her fear of losing herself to wealth lingered like a stubborn root. One evening, a regular customer asked her to create a dream catcher for a grieving friend, a piece to hold their sorrow. The request felt sacred, yet it brought a new disruption. Could she weave something so personal without letting her fear of selling out taint the act? Her belief that abundance might erode her authenticity loomed, a cavern she had to face. To meet this challenge, Sophia chose a practical action, the third sacred insight. She would craft the dream catcher with intention, not for profit, but as an offering of healing. Each night, she sat by candlelight, weaving feathers and threads while chanting softly, a Buddhist-inspired practice to center her heart. This act was a confrontation with her fear. She was creating for another, not for approval or gain. The process stirred memories of her own losses, forcing her to face the vulnerability she'd long buried. Her hands trembled, but the stone in her pocket pulsed with warmth, grounding her. The customer's gratitude, raw and tearful, shook Sophia. She saw her work's impact, yet felt the weight of her old belief. Would abundance always come at the cost of her soul? This moment was a deeper call, pushing her to trust the flow of giving without clinging to outcomes. Clara's quiet presence at the market, offering a knowing smile, reminded her she wasn't alone. Sophia stood at the edge of her fears, ready to step deeper. Let this moment stir your own courage to face what holds you back. Sophia stood at the heart of her inner storm, the dreamcatcher she'd woven for the grieving friend now a mirror of her own buried pain. The third insight, creating as an offering of healing, had opened her to vulnerability, but it also unearthed a deeper fear, that abundance would hollow her spirit, leaving only a shadow of her true self. One night, alone in her attic, the weight of this belief crashed over her. She saw every unfinished dreamcatcher, every moment she'd held back, as a refusal to trust life's flow. Tears fell as she clutched the stone, its warmth faint against her trembling hands. This was her crisis. Could she release her grip on fear without losing who she was? In that stillness, a breakthrough flickered. Sophia lit a single candle and placed it before her loom, its flame a quiet guide. She began weaving a new dreamcatcher, not for anyone else, but for herself, a symbol of letting go. Each knot she tied was a release of her belief that wealth would betray her simplicity. The act, Buddhist-inspired and sacred, was a surrender to the unknown. As the candle burned, she saw her fear not as truth, but as a story she could rewrite. The stone pulsed warmer, as if affirming her shift. She wasn't erasing her past, she was weaving it into something new. The ordeal left Sophia raw but lighter, her heart no longer bound by the need to control outcomes. The dreamcatcher, half-finished, hung in the moonlight, a testament to her courage. She had faced the cavern of her doubt and emerged with a fragile but growing trust in abundance. The path ahead was still uncertain, but she was ready to walk it. Carry this light to a soul seeking its own dawn. Sophia's breakthrough in the attic left her heart lighter, the candlelit weaving a quiet victory over her fear. The third insight, creating as an offering, had begun to unravel her belief that wealth would hollow her spirit. Now, she felt a pull to weave this truth into her life. She chose a practical action, transforming her daily routine to reflect her newfound trust in abundance. Each morning, she began sketching dreamcatcher designs before sunrise, whispering affirmations of flow and simplicity as she worked. This Buddhist-inspired ritual, tying threads around a small stone each dawn, anchored her intention to create without clinging to outcomes. Her studio, once a cage of doubt, became a sanctuary of alignment. Sophia started sharing her designs online, not for profit, but to connect with others, letting her work ripple outward. Each post was a step toward integrating her spiritual shift, a way to honor the stranger's gaze and Lila's wisdom. The fear of losing authenticity lingered, but it no longer ruled her. Clara, her market ally, noticed the change, commenting on the quiet confidence in Sophia's creations. Responses from strangers online, touched by her work's sincerity, affirmed her path. The dreamcatcher she'd woven for herself hung above her desk, a symbol of her inner shift. Sophia's reward was not wealth, but a deeper trust in life's flow. She was no longer just a weaver of dreamcatchers, but of possibility, her craft a bridge between her heart and the world. The stone, now tied with threads of intention, rested in her palm each morning, a reminder of her alignment. Her journey was weaving itself into something greater, a life where abundance and simplicity dance together. Let this story inspire your own heart to weave truth into your days. Sophia's mornings of sketching and affirmations had woven a quiet confidence into her life, her trust in abundance growing like threads in a loom. Yet the world now called for a real test. A local gallery owner, moved by her online dreamcatchers, invited her to showcase her work in a community exhibition. The opportunity stirred both excitement and fear. Could she share her creations publicly without her old belief that wealth would unravel her simplicity, pulling her back? This was her moment to embody her transformation, to prove her trust in the flow. She chose a practical action. She would present her dreamcatchers, not as products, but as offerings of connection, embodying the third sacred insight fully. Sophia prepared for the exhibition with intention, selecting pieces that carried her heart's story. Each night, she sat by a riverbank, placing a small stone in the current as a Buddhist-inspired gesture, releasing her need for approval. The act steadied her, reminding her to create for the joy of sharing, not for gain. At the exhibition, her dreamcatchers drew quiet gasps, their simplicity resonating with strangers. When a buyer offered a substantial sum, Sophia paused, feeling the old fear flicker, but chose to accept, trusting the exchange as part of the flow. Clara's proud nod from across the room anchored her. The test wasn't the sale, but her ability to stand in her truth without clinging to outcomes. Sophia felt the weight of her journey, each knot, each stone, each moment of surrender, culminating in this moment of courage. She was no longer hiding, her craft was a bridge to the world. The exhibition marked a return, not to her old life, but to a new one, woven with trust. Let this story light your own path to stand boldly in your truth. Sophia stood transformed, the exhibition's success a quiet echo of her inner shift. The third sacred insight, creating as an offering, had rewoven her belief that wealth would unravel her simplicity. Now, a final test emerged. A collector offered to fund a larger collection of her dreamcatchers for a national showcase. The scale of this opportunity stirred a faint echo of her old fear. Would abundance pull her from her soul's truth? Yet, Sophia felt the stone's warmth in her pocket, a reminder of her journey. She chose to embody her new truth through a sacred act. Each evening, she walked a spiral of stones barefoot under moonlight, affirming her trust in life's flow. This ritual, Buddhist-inspired and grounding, sealed her resurrection. She accepted the collector's offer, not for wealth, but to share her craft's light with more hearts. Her dreamcatchers were no longer just objects, they were vessels of connection, woven with intention. The fear that once caged her had dissolved, replaced by a quiet certainty that abundance could amplify her simplicity, not diminish it. Clara's tearful embrace at the exhibition's close mirrored Sophia's own heart. She had become a weaver of possibility, her work a testament to surrender. The stranger's feather, still on her desk, seemed to glow, as if nodding to her rebirth. Sophia's resurrection was not in fame or riches, but in living fully as herself, untethered from outcomes. Her hands, once hesitant, now wove with a steady rhythm, each thread a prayer of trust. She stood taller, her spirit no longer hidden in the attic's shadows. The world awaited her light, and she was ready to meet it. Let this story awaken the courage to rise into your own truth. Sophia's journey had woven her fears into threads of trust, her dreamcatchers now glowing with purpose beyond her attic's walls. The national showcase was not just a display, but a sacred offering, embodying the third insight, creating as a gift to the world. She returned to her community not as the hesitant weaver, but as a beacon of abundance and simplicity intertwined. Her practical action was to mentor others, sharing her craft with young artists at a local workshop. Each morning, she swept her studio floor in mindful silence, a Buddhist-inspired ritual to clear her heart and honor the flow of giving without attachment. Her dreamcatchers, once hidden, now hung in homes far beyond her town, each one carrying her story of surrender. The belief that wealth would unravel her soul had dissolved, replaced by a life where prosperity amplified her authenticity. Clara joined her workshops, their bond a quiet testament to shared growth. The feather from the stranger and Lila's stone rested on her desk, symbols of a journey complete yet ever unfolding. Sophia's presence inspired others to weave their own dreams, her vulnerability a light for those still caged by fear. She lived with grace, her hands crafting not just dream catchers, but connections that rippled outward. Sophia's return was a sacred closure, her life a testament to detaching from outcomes to attract abundance. She invited others to trust the flow, just as she had. Like her story, your own path holds wisdom waiting to be shared. Please like this video, subscribe to Zen Companion, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's walk this journey of transformation together.